Hey, thank you very much. Again, my name is Todd Chamberlain. I'm the Chief of Police here at the Aurora Police Department. I really want to say thank you for coming together for this. I'm going to kind of give you the details of why you're here, what this is about, and I think once you see some of the video that we have prepared for you, you're going to kind of have an understanding. Again, before I get started into that, I just want to reaffirm that without question, Aurora has turned a corner. Aurora is an incredibly vibrant city. It's an incredibly active city, and it's an incredibly safe city. And I want that to be very, very much out in the front of this discussion. Crime is down, but why crime is down also, there's challenges, and challenges that remain that the Aurora Police Department is addressing. And one of those aspects of those challenges is a really disturbing video that just recently came out that, again, and this might sound like deja vu, this shows armed individuals threatening an apartment in an apartment complex here in the Aurora area. The scene is very reminiscent of the TDA gang takeover that occurred last year and gained national attention. And I want to let everyone know, let the community know that we are addressing this actively, effectively, and immediately. And with that, I'm going to run the video real quick so that we can have the video, and then we'll start the discussion as we move forward. So again, that video is what the Aurora Police Department became aware of after an investigation related to a number of calls for service, also related to a number of shooting incidences. The reason that I am showing this video now is because I want everyone to understand and to know that we are ahead of this. This isn't something that we are reacting to. This is something that we are proactively addressing with everything that we can possibly do, everything that we can possibly achieve, and everyone we can possibly hold accountable, we will do so. As you can see in the video, again, you have a number of individuals, very reminiscent of what we saw in the past, where they are going up into an apartment complex. This apartment complex is located on Potomac, in the 6th and Potomac area. And I think what's compelling about this as well is that the individuals who live in this apartment, they had just moved into this apartment complex 2 days prior. And they actually came from Venezuela as well. So that is the circumstances. All of the individuals were armed. You can see the two individuals, the one with the hoodie, and he is armed. You can see another individual who's off to the side, who is at a low ready position with his weapon, which means he's basically pointing it at the door, ready to do whatever happens when that door opens. The other individual, who looks like he is kind of guiding and directing it, he is the individual you see with the bandana on. He is basically, from what appears to be kind of the ringleader, addressing, directing, making sure that contact is made with those people. The one thing that I think is the positive about this is that the individuals who had just moved into that apartment complex did not open that door. Had they opened that door, I shudder to think what might have happened to them. But unfortunately, that is what we have seen at that apartment complex, and it's what we have been dealing with. So I'm going to give you a brief history about that apartment complex itself. Again, the Aurora Police Department became aware of 44 radio calls for service. Out of those 44, many of those were duplicate calls for service, and so we basically got down to about 12 separate individual incidences. Those incidences start all the way back in August. On August the 24th, we had shots fired. On September the 24th, we had a 14-year-old who was kidnapped, pulled into an apartment. On 10/13, we had shots fired again. On 12/24, we had shots fired. On 1/6, we had a victim who was pulled into an apartment by 3 Venezuelans and basically told that they were going to be there until they wanted to leave. On 1/29, again, we had squatters that were inside of another apartment building after the tenant left due to the fact that he was assaulted and mistreated. Those were also Venezuelans. On 2/13, we had 15 to 20 male Hispanics, unknown ethnicity and unknown immigration status, that were squatting in another apartment. And then on 5/31, we had a shooting. And then again on 6/6, we had shots fired. On 6/7, we had shots fired. And that also involved 22 rounds that were actually fired in that complex and in that area. So with all that information, again, the Aurora PD has been working diligently to try to focus on that location and that venue and to hold those individuals that are causing that victimization accountable. The one thing that is compelling about this is that this video was released to us by a neighbor. That, in turn, really gave us the understanding of the complexities that were occurring. All of those calls I mentioned, we had PD respond to. We have been focused on that area. We have been working in that area. And that video, without question, gave us the understanding of what exactly was occurring, how it was occurring, and when it was occurring. So the apartment was identified. We definitely responded. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of the timeline. And again, this is what you can see. So on June the 9th, last week, we responded to that call for service regarding the weapons. The investigation started. We met on Tuesday, June the 10th. We got together with all of our units that would be advised or working on this particular event. On Wednesday, June the 11th, we actually set into motion a plan where we went inside of that location. Once inside there, in that apartment complex, we did 11 door knocks on vacant locations. We did 6 door knocks on probable locations where victimization, where crime has possibly been occurring, and we did 1 search warrant. We also went around to the community. We door knocked on every single door in and around that complex and passed out flyers and had conversations with every individual in that complex to find out what was occurring, how it was occurring, and what were the issues. The flyers were to make sure that, one, they felt that they could have a conversation with us and they'd be safe, that they could pass on information that would allow us to understand and focus on the individuals that were causing the problem, and 2, 3, to make sure that they understood that we were there to serve them. What we found during those door knocks is that, again, this is a behavior pattern that has unfortunately been occurring. It's, like I said, it kind of really started generating sometime in the time of March, February, when individuals started to move into that apartment complex. So that's when we really started to get an understanding of what was occurring and how it was occurring. On Wednesday, later on in the afternoon, again, one of those suspects was detained, which I'll show you some more information here briefly. And then on Thursday, we arrested a second suspect that was depicted in that video. He was all the way down at the flight of stairs at the very bottom. With that, if you could go to the next slide, please. These are some of the steps that we took when we moved into that apartment complex. Again, our gang intervention unit. We had patrol, special operations, investigations divisions, our community engagement bureau all went into the location. On Tuesday, June the 10th, again, our crime analysis put together very, very specific information related to the calls for service, how they happened, when they happened, and where they happened. We analyzed all of those calls for service. We put together a plan. We have had working groups every single day telephonically with all these entities involved, very similar to the task force that we put on before. On June the 11th, again, we did the knock and the talk operations throughout the vacant locations, as well as all the ones that were occupied. We made contact with everybody inside that apartment complex that would open the door, that would have conversations with us. The flyer was disseminated, and then we also worked with our federal partners in any way to address the issues related to the criminal activity and the victimization that was occurring in there. If you could go to the next slide, please. When I talk about one of the individuals being arrested, again, you can see the individual. This is the one who was detained. He actually resided inside that complex. That weapon is the weapon that was passed back and forth by the individual with the bandana on, or the beanie, and this individual. Our suspect on this is Larry Galbraith. Like I said, he resides in that complex. We had extensive interviews with him. And I tell you, there's some very compelling statements that relate to some of the issues that we have seen historically that kind of set the foundation for what we're seeing right now. Larry actually mentioned that he was tattooed by one of the Venezuelan individuals that were inside that location that is active in and around that area. He was actually marked. He mentioned that. He also mentioned that many of the Venezuelans in and around this complex, whether they are passing through or whether they are squatting or whether they are victimizing or intimidating somebody, they are usually doing it when they are high on narcotics using Tusi. Tusi is a derivative of cocaine and ketamine, and that is a drug that is very specific to the Venezuelan population. So when our officers made contact with him, that was some of the interviews and some of the contacts we had. Again, when you look at the video and you review that video, it doesn't appear that this individual is the dominant one. It appears that he is getting more directed and told what to do by other individuals. And when we look at gang activity, when we look at the exploitation that occurs, when we look at the expansion that occurs, it seems very consistent with what we are seeing in that video. Another aspect that seems very consistent with the influx of gang activity in and around that area is that community presence. Again, they are picking on a community that they are versed in. They are picking on a community that is the immigrant population in the city of Aurora. They are picking on a community, again, that is primarily Venezuelan, and that is who they are focused on. They are also focused on building networks. They are building networks by using other people, similar to the suspect that you see here. And again, when you look at the intimidation and the alliances that you see built in that video, I think that that speaks for themselves. The tactic of stacking up at a door with multiple weapons pointed at it while they're in a position of cover and concealment, that is not something that you see daily. That is not something that you see in a normal crime spree. That is something that you see with individuals that have been groomed, that have been cultivated, and that are a huge risk to the community and a huge risk to the immigrant population that they themselves came here with. So that is what we were focused on. Again, I want to talk briefly about our partnerships. If you could go to the next slide, please, real quickly. This slide here, I think it's incredibly important because if you look up on the right side of the screen, again, you'll see our suspect that was taken into custody and the gun that was taken into custody. That individual then gave information about another apartment that was located above the actual incident apartment here. Our officers responded to that location. We made contact with a number of individuals in there. Again, our partnership with our federal government and our federal counterparts led to the collaboration of those individuals being detained based upon the criminal nexus that we are well aware of in this department. And those individuals, one of the individuals detained, which you can see, he has a nexus. And again, this is basically a network analysis of everything that one individual, that one apartment, that one complex has had with other crimes in and around the city of Aurora. And I think that's an incredibly telling thing because people think, oh, it's just one person. Well, it's not one person. It's a chain of continuity. It's a chain of actions. It's a chain of connections. Nothing happens in a vacuum, unfortunately, with this group. And what you're seeing is one individual has contact and connections with numerous individuals that are involved in criminal activity, the majority of which, both adult and juveniles, have already been arrested by the Aurora Police Department. But whether it's because they were bonded out as adults or it's because there was not enough bed space for them as juveniles. Again, the state of Colorado has only 215 juvenile beds that are set up for juveniles that are apprehended involved in criminal activity. Again, most of those individuals, many of them, were out. being active and still are active. And so again, this is what this investigation is ongoing. This is what we are focused on, because up in that one right corner basically starts to show the nexus of all these other individuals that are involved in victimization of other people. If you go to the next slide, please. What we're asking now, again, I detailed what we are doing. We are not in any stretch of the imagination shying away from this. We are pressing into this. I wanted this video to be seen. I wanted it to be observed, and I want those individuals that are involved in it to know that they are going to be going to jail. They are going to be apprehended, and we are not going to stop until they are. And again, I don't want this video to show up on social media or to show up after we became aware of it and saying, oh my gosh, how could that happen in our city? I want everybody in the city of Aurora, everybody in the state of Colorado, everyone in the United States if possible, to know that we are looking for these individuals. These are the individuals that, again, when I talked about stacking up on doors, weapons in a low ready, assault rifles off to the side, you can see the individual with the white hoodie on. These are individuals that we are focused on, and these are individuals that we, in collaboration with community, with federal partners, and with anybody else who can help and assist us, are going to take these individuals into custody. And so we're asking for the community's help, and we're asking for any help from any other law enforcement agencies or organizations that might have any information related to any of these individuals that they may see here. If you could go to the next slide, please. Again, when I talked about what we did, this is kind of a reiteration of that. So what we found out when we did an analysis on those calls for service, when we got that video and we started to analyze it and review it, we have been doing incredibly proactive patrol in and around that area. We will not rest until no one left in that apartment complex or any other apartment complex in the city of Aurora is victimized the way that we have seen past victimization occur. And so we are focused on that. We have spent over 51 hours at the location since Tuesday. We have had daily calls since Tuesday with all of the units involved in this for collaboration and understanding. We have spent 728 personnel hours investigating the proactive patrol aspect, the community reassurance, and the overall operations. So with all of these things in place, if you could go to the next slide if there is, that's what we're here for, and that's what this discussion about. We saw a video. We saw a pattern of conduct. It's like I think I sat here a number of months ago when we closed down Dallas Street and we did the criminal nuisance on it. And we said, again, this is not a victory lap by any stretch of the imagination. There is still going to be work that has to be done. That's one thing I think when you get involved in law enforcement and you stop a problem or you arrest somebody, is that there's always that possibility of displacement, especially when you're looking at a place-based enforcement action. That displacement can go anywhere at any place. That's why we have spent so much time and so much due diligence to track it, to verify it, and then address it and stop it. I'll be very open with you. What I see on this video, it is very reminiscent of what we saw before in the city of Aurora. But the difference is we are not going to allow this to gain momentum. We are not going to allow it to gain steam. We are not going to step away from it. We are going to step into it. We are going to hold all of those individuals accountable. And I'll be very frank with you too, there's a lot of, we still have to understand. But based upon all the expectations, based upon everything that I stated here, based upon the involvement, the actions, the behaviors, the demeanor, there is without question gang involvement in this. And again, we are going to hold those individuals accountable. I look at these individuals like a cancer. They are not a benign cancer. They are a cancer that is causing victimization. They are a cancer that must be addressed. They must be cut out and they must be stopped. And the Aurora Police Department is going to do everything at our possibility, everything that we possibly can, to change the trajectory of what these individuals they are doing, how they are victimizing other people that are trying to survive and trying to live. And we are not going to tolerate it. So with that, I'd like to close this and open it to any questions.
Is this resurfacing of the same gang that may have been at the Dallas location?
Well, it's like what I said. Again, we're still in the investigation part of this, and the gang that you're referring to is TDA. We are still in the investigative portion of this, but I will say, when you look at all the evidence, when you look at what we have to date, and again, that could change tomorrow, it could change the next day. But I feel very comfortable to say that the majority of these individuals involved in this are Venezuelan or affiliates of the Venezuelans who have either been indoctrinated or groomed or brought into it. And again, when you look at that criminal history of TDA, the way they acted, what they did, it's very consistent with what we see here. So again, my speculation, based on the circumstances, based upon what we know at this time, is that yes, this appears to be a TDA or a affiliate TDA involvement.
In your canvassing, when you went and did the knock and talks, did you find victims that were victims of this gang?
We didn't get victims that actually stepped forward and said that we were victims, but we got a lot of people in the complex who said that this has become a norm, where people are pounding on their doors at night. The call loads that we have, the number of radio calls that we did an analysis on and looked at, it shows a very similar pattern, again, where they are pulling people into apartments. They are basically taking over those apartments, whether it's in squatting or whatever it is. And again, that is very consistent with what we saw up at Dallas. The one thing that is not consistent with what we saw at Dallas, which has really changed the dynamics of how we are functioning, is the cooperation that we are getting with the landowners. Again, the department management has been incredibly proactive with us. They have been incredibly supportive. They have been very, very helpful. As you might remember with Dallas Street, it was almost the complete antithesis of that. It was almost to a point where they were blatantly getting in our way of being able to do law enforcement, where they were causing much of the problem, much of the concern. That has not been the situation here. Another positive thing that I think that we have learned and the community has learned here, and I hope that we continue to increase that, is the connection and the relationship with our community to law enforcement. Again, they are the ones that made these radio calls. They are the ones that let us become aware through analysis that, hey, we're starting to see or develop a problem. They are also the ones that provided this video. And that video, with those calls for service and being able to put those two together, has really been the beginning of us focusing on that location and us doing the proactive policing that we are doing.
What's the location?
The location it's up on 6th and Potomac. It's actually the address, and again, I'm a little bit hesitant about giving it because I don't think it's a problematic location. I think there's problems in there. But it's not a problematic location. We are addressing those without question, but it's 544 Potomac.
Chief, can you reiterate how distressing this is for the residents there that have fallen victim to these acts?
Yeah, I think it's stressing for everybody. I think, again, when you know that you have individuals that are fully armed in and around your apartment complex, and I think what's sad about it too is that I think many of these victims, it's almost become normalized. I think it's almost become to the point where they think, oh, it's just part of living in America. It's part of being victimized by other immigrants who have come to this country with them when they fled to this country. And unfortunately, some of those immigrants have decided to take on gang affiliation, or they were already gang active, which we have found in many, many of the individuals that we have stopped. And I think that's really the sad part, is that they think that's normal. Well, that's not normal in America. And victimization should not be normalized in America. Unfortunately, that's what the discussion is right now. And so again, when I see a lot of these groups, when I see a lot of these demonstrations, when I see these things that are unfolding every single day, where they're talking about the immigrants' rights and the deportations and how it's impacting the immigrants, I hope for 1 second, 1 instant, that many of those people who are involved in that realize how naive they are and how quickly they have forgotten the immigrants themselves who are being victimized over and over and over and over. And I never see protest, I never see demonstrations, I never see any marches on behalf of the victims. Not once. I'll never see a group walking down the street saying we're protesting victimization of our immigrant population. I only see protests for people that are involved and have criminal nexus being deported, and that has become the story. And that's troubling because in this apartment complex in Dallas, that's who repeatedly and continually got victimized. It wasn't the population that resided here, it was the population that came here for a better life, and they were completely ignored, they were completely set aside, and they were completely victimized almost daily, if not weekly, by many of the same people that they fled their country to get away from that behavior and that pattern, and yet that's not the story that you hear. And that's alive and well, unfortunately, and it's not just Aurora either. I don't want to be naive and think, oh, Aurora's got this unique problem, because that's not the problem. If you look at a lot of these agencies and these organizations that have had this influx of population, I can guarantee you, whether they know it or whether they don't know it, they are dealing with very similar situations that we are dealing with here.
Chief, do you think these people are juveniles, adults, a mix?
Again, I think it's a mixed. I think, again, when you look at most gangs and how they are expanded and how they grow, I think it's through recruitment. I think it's through grooming. I think it's through bringing people that, again, are looking for some kind of connection, or else they're forced into it. And the next thing, they're a part of a gang. Again, I don't know all the circumstances. And again, there's a lot that we have to learn. But when you see somebody getting tattooed by somebody else who's actively involved in gang activity, you really got to ask yourself, well, what's that all about? What does that mean? And I think that's a big part of the expansion process when you look at gangs and how they grow and what they do. Again, they can't stay stagnant because they have to continue to victimize others, because they're not out working. They're not out doing a job. They're basically victimizing, and that is their job, is to victimize other people. And it's like I said before, the people that they are victimizing are mostly people that don't feel comfortable in coming forward and providing information on that victimization. And so it's just a continuous cycle that many of these people and many of these individuals that come here for a better life have to go through. And that, to me, is very important. Another question?
In the videos you played, what potential crimes do you see?
Well, other than the fact that, again, when you look at the video that we had on Dallas Street and you compare it to that, it's almost exactly frame for frame similar. The fact that it is a takeover, the fact that these individuals who moved from Venezuela just 2 days prior are now, for whatever reason, at the middle of the night having a group of approximately about 9 individuals stacked up on their door, pounding on their door, trying to get in. I think that really, again, we're still going to have to navigate that and find that out. But I think it really relates a lot to the extortion that unfortunately happens. I think it's almost like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. We're going to extort you. We're going to tax you. That's what we found at Dallas. We found that many of the people in Dallas were paying rents double. They would pay to the TDA gang members, and then they would also have to pay to the CBZ landlords. And so, again, that's problematic. And that's what I see on this video. Whether that's going to come to fruition, and I'm being very open with you. Again, there's still a lot of investigating that has to go into this. There's still a lot of people that we have to take into custody, and we will. And there's still a lot of things that we have to find out. And I might be standing here in 2 weeks and saying, hey, we're navigated, we got in a whole other direction. But again, everything that you're looking at, everything that I'm looking at, everything that I see, it is very, very consistent with what we have seen in the past. Any other questions?
You mentioned that their displacement. Is there a possibility that this apartment complex will go through the same process that Dallas went through in terms of having to shut it down, or the city taking over because of a nuisance issue?
Yeah, I would say right now, no. And I would say the big reason for that is obviously because we have such cooperation. The landowners themselves, the management company, they don't want this activity to occur in their apartment building. They want to change. And so, again, their involvement with us has been the completely opposite of what we experienced at Dallas. Like I said, at Dallas, it was almost an obstruction. Here, it's been the other way. It's been open information. It's been open discussion. It's been a partnership. And when you talk about community policing and you talk about those partnerships, that is an exact example of what we are hoping to achieve, and that's what we are achieving at this location. And to me, that question goes back to, again, why am I standing here so early in the investigation? Because there's still a lot we got to find out. It's like I said, I wish I could say, hey, all those people are in custody and we know exactly what it was, and we found out that, hey, it involved a bad loan, or it involved a dope deal gone bad, or whatever. I don't know. We might find all that out. But I wanted to get ahead of this because, again, I don't want anybody else in that apartment building ever thinking that I'm not going to call the police if this is occurring, or any other apartment building in the city of Aurora. It's like I said, Aurora is not an unsafe place. Aurora is not taken over by gang members by any stretch of the imagination. There are problem locations like in any other major city, but we are proactively and aggressively addressing those problems, and we are going to find out exactly what all the circumstances are, what all the issues are, and we are going to stop it. And I'm going to use every resource available to hold those individuals that are involved in this victimization accountable. Federal, state, local, it makes no difference. I will use whatever I can to make sure that we are doing our job. Sir?
How do you know specifically they're from Venezuela?
Yeah, again, that's one thing that we've gotten from a lot of it, from the individual that we took into custody. Those are statements that he made. He made very specific statements about their country of origin. The family where we did the follow-up and went to, again, they were all documented as far as Venezuelans. And again, the individuals that we think we have identified in here as well, they also have an origin of Venezuela. So that is the pattern that we are seeing. Again, can that change? Yeah, it can. Will it? I don't know. But right now, that is the direction that we are looking at and going towards.
Can you disclose anything what you guys found in the search warrant?
The search warrant is where we actually found the gun and the hoodie. So that was what was located in the search warrant.
I think I saw a number of people have been picked up by federal immigration. Do you have a preference of arresting and then having people here trying to be held accountable in court for any crimes they may have committed, or just immigration and the problems physically removed?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because it's on that network analysis chart that I threw up there. We see a lot of victimization that occurred by individuals, and you can see that connection. It's all the way through there. The troubling part is that those individuals had all been arrested or have been identified, taken into custody in some cases, and yet they're back out victimizing other people. And there's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to point fingers on that, but there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of ability as far as work placement, or whether the case gets filed or doesn't get filed, or probable cause. How is it looked at? Was it enough? Was it not enough? Those are all issues without question. But the bottom line is, whatever resource can be used to take these individuals away from victimizing people in the city of Aurora, I'm going to use those resources, whether it's HSI, whether it's ICE. Again, if there is a criminal nexus to any of this activity, I am going to use the resources that I can to make sure that a community member walking down the street, that you walking down the street, aren't jumped, don't have a gun placed against you, aren't beaten, don't have somebody coming to your doors at 2 o'clock pounding and banging, demanding that you pay them multiple rents. I'm not going to allow that to occur. And I'm going to use whatever we can legally, whatever we can constitutionally, and whatever we can ethically to make sure that victimization does not occur in this city.
Could you go over
Is
once
that
more?
video made available to all of us?
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
Could you go over once more? You talked about Larry. Has he been arrested and charged with something?
Yeah, Larry was charged with criminal menacing, and he's still in the process.
And if you were able to arrest the other individuals that you're looking at here, what types of charges could they possibly face?
Again, I think it was going to be more criminally menacing based upon what you see here, based upon their firearms. Again, also based upon the actions that they have as the interviews continue to unfold, based upon search warrants. Again, there's a lot of the investigation that still has to unfold. So saying right now what it would be, it'd be criminally menacing for sure. Everything else would open up based upon what we have.
So it sounds like you've seen a puff of smoke here, and you want to put it out before it turns into a fire almost. It would seem like.
We have seen the issues with our own eyes. We have seen them through analytics. We have seen them through analysis, and we are going to address them as quickly and as effectively as possible to stop them. And again, that's the struggle too, because we're going to hit this place, which we are, but we're constantly looking for the next place. And again, whether that next place is here, whether it's down the street, whether it's in Denver, as a law enforcement community, we have to focus on that. Because the one thing that I have seen with this gang is they are not transitory. It's not like a traditional gang where they say, this is our community, this is our place. They will go in a while, they will victimize it, they will basically bleed it dry, and then they will go somewhere else very simply and very easily. Another thing that's really challenging about this group or these gangs, again, and I'm still saying, we don't know all the individuals involved. I'm saying the actions and the activities are very consistent with TDA or a subset of TDA. That is what I will say. But the one challenging thing, and it's the same challenge we had a couple years ago or last year, is that these individuals do not look like gang members. These individuals look like somebody that could be working at 7-Eleven. They look like somebody who could be working at Target. They look like somebody who could be in any occupation walking down the street. And so when I talk about the appearance or the face value of what you see, it looks very different when you see it on a video and you see somebody holding a gun or holding an automatic weapon, and then you see a picture of somebody else and it's like, oh, that couldn't possibly be a gang member. Well, you know what? Wake up. Because they are gang members, and they don't dress like it's 1980 or 1990, where they're all posted up on a corner. They dress exactly like you and me, and they do the same actions and the same activities, except one of the activities they do that you don't do is victimize other people. And again, those people they victimize are usually people within their own immigrant population. And that's really the tragedy of all of this. Any other questions?
I'm sure the video that you showed is just a small amount. I would assume you have maybe other cameras or more video.
No, that's pieced together what we have.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the only, okay.
That's correct.
And did you name the apartment complex?
I did. I gave the address.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has it always been called the same thing?
It's been changed multiple times, I believe.
But the same owners still?
I'm not sure of that. I can't give you that information. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. Anything else?
Other cameras around the complex that may have picked these guys up?
Yeah, we canvassed the whole area looking for other closed circuit television, and we also have our systems in place, and we have not been able to locate any other cameras on that.
How many unit complex is it about?
It's a larger one. Again, I don't have the specific count. It's multiple dwellings or multiple buildings that are spread out through an area.
Similar to Dallas?
Yes, very similar. Ma'am, in the back?
About how many do you think there are? Like a handful, hundreds? Do you have an estimate?
Yeah, right now, based on this, and that's what I'm going to talk about, is what I know factually. Right now, we think it's somewhere approximately about 9 individuals. 2 of them are in custody, and then we have 7 that are still outstanding that we will be taking into custody as soon as we continue our investigation, and as soon as the community gives us more additional support and help, and we are able together to solve these problems.
Through the Dallas Street process, you sent very direct messages for community members that were possible victims to join your efforts in sharing information. Is that going to happen here as well? What are some of the words that you're going to have direct to those people?
Yeah, and again, that has happened. It's not, is it going to happen? It has happened, and it's been continuous. There's been multiple press briefings, again, ever since I stepped into this role, talking about that relationship, making sure that there is that trust factor that they can come forward. On this particular event, again, we did that knock and talk where we went through all of the complexes, even the ones that we don't know if we're involved or not, and we handed out flyers in both English and Spanish, making sure that individuals had a clear understanding that we want to get their information, we want to support them, and we want to make sure that they're safe. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have about an estimate or specifically know how many people had to pay rent twice at the Dallas apartments or were paying rent to the gangsters?
Yeah, I don't have specific numbers, but that was pretty much what the standard was. That's what we found out from the people, again, as they moved out and as we had conversations with them, is that was basically the practice. Whether this, and I'm going to go again, I'll expound a little bit, whether this is that practice starting itself again or another process of that practice, I don't know. But I do know it's very strange to have approximately 9 people stacked up at your door in the middle of the night, pounding when you just moved in. They weren't there with coffee cake and a welcoming tray. They were there with guns, they were there with attitude, and they were there with fear and intimidation on these poor people that just moved in 2 days prior. And to me, that's alarming. Anything else? Thank you so very much for everything. I appreciate it.